Hello everyone, Alex is here. Lately I made a video about my best portrait lens and I was pleased that it was the most popular video on my channel, and I'm glad I managed to share some of my experience with you guys and got a really good feedback on the video. However, some of you found the lens rather expensive. So today I brought you a budget alternative that won't break the bank and will give you a spectacular results. It's the Sony FE 85mm f1.8. In this video I'll talk about what's inside the box, the build quality and design of this lens, the real life performance, autofocus for both photos and videos, and I will share some photo samples as well. And I will do a comparison between this lens and some other options to see if the Sony 85mm is the right choice for you. The lens, as always, comes in the orange box. Inside of it you will find the manual papers, the lens hood. Let's start with the design. As you see, Sony made this lens a perfect fit for the mirrorless cameras. Whether you use the full frame sensor or APS-C, you won't have any problem with the size. However, it will be equivalent to 130mm on the APS-C sensor. And similar to that is the weight. This lens has a feather weight, well, at least compared to my Sigma 105. Here is a comparison between both. You can see that the Sony 85mm is much lighter, with a weight of almost 370 grams, compared to 1660 grams. That's over 4 times the weight, without even mentioning how much the Sigma will take a space in your camera bag. Now, dimension-wise, you can also see that the Sony is much smaller than the Sigma, keeping in mind that the Sigma 105 is one of the biggest lenses you can buy. So there are some other competitors to this lens that I will talk about later in the video. Also worth mentioning that this lens uses the common 67mm filter thread with minimum distance focus of 0.8 meter. On the side of the lens there is a customizable button next to an autofocus switch and butter smooth manual focus ring that uses focus by wire. However, there is no aperture ring on this lens, and I find people are splitted regarding this ring. I always use it on my Sony G20mm, but I always move it by mistake too, and I've never felt like there was something missing on my other lenses that don't have it. Either way, this lens doesn't have it. This lens has a weather sealing, according to Sony at least. However, I didn't see any rubber sealing next to the connectors, so consider staying away from the dust and the water if you can. The autofocus on this lens is super snappy on both photos and videos. However, I feel like the most effective factor when it comes to autofocus is the camera itself, because I used to have a lot of troubles when it comes to autofocus on my Sony a7 II, but when I upgraded to the Sony a7 IV, the same lenses were much faster. But it doesn't mean that the lens is not an important factor as well. Here's a sample of the photo autofocus recorded from the camera screen on the Sony a7 IV. As you saw, the autofocus is so smooth when it comes to stills, and most of the people will buy this lens for portraits. But for some of you who want to buy this lens for videos, the results are almost identical. Take a look. autofocus on this lens is a top notch on both stills and videos, so you have nothing to worry about here. Also, this lens doesn't suffer any kind of focus breathing, while the most expensive Sony GMaster lenses do suffer from it. When it comes to sharpness, this lens won't let you down. Look how sharp the eye is at f8, and I think the 85mm is the sweet spot for studios. So if you have enough space to move away from the subject, this lens is a great choice. The results are also so good at f1.8. Let me zoom at the eye and show you how amazing this lens is. And here's some photos I took in my last photo shoot with the amazing cosplayer Eva. Make sure to follow her on Instagram. As you saw from the samples, Sony made a masterpiece for a really affordable price. The photos out of this lens are wonderful. However, I did find the background blur a little bit distracting and the bokeh effect wasn't completely circular. But I guess that's expected on a budget lens. But I don't think there is any other lens can compete with this lens for the same price. Let's compare it with the other available options to make sure your next lens is the right one for you. The Sigma 85mm f1.4 has a faster aperture compared to f1.8. However, it's double the weight and the price, and the autofocus performance is better and snappier on the Sony 85mm. Although sometimes you can find the Sigma 85mm on Amazon for $1,000 Canadian. So if having a faster aperture is a big deal for you, wait to get the best price out of the Sigma. And the other option is a Sony GMaster 85mm f1.4. It has a faster aperture and better background production, but it's triple the price and has a problem with the focus breathing. And the last option is a Zeiss Batis. I'm not gonna talk much about it because the autofocus on it is hit or miss. I've been using this lens for over a month now, and I'm surprised with the results. This lens can replace 90% of my favorite Sigma 105mm for less than half the price. So if I have the option again to pick one of these as my main portrait lens, I will definitely go with the 85mm and add something else to my gear with the rest of the money. But since I already have the Sigma 105mm, I'm gonna keep it as my main portrait lens. And if you're thinking of buying this lens, don't hesitate. It's worth every penny. And don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. And if you want to know why the 105mm is my favorite focal length, click here. And if you're looking to buy a nifty 50 lens, this video will help you pick. And thank you for watching.